Students in private universities are eligible to apply for loans from the government, and we have a loans body called HELB, Higher Education Loans Board. Initially, it was only students in public universities or public institutions, but since about 4 years ago, every student eligible to apply for that loan is repaid at quite a low interest, between 2 to 4%. Again, staff and indeed even students are interested in research. They also have access to a national research and innovation fund. This research and innovation fund was set up about 4 years ago again, and in addition to it working locally, we collaborate with a number of other countries to support and augment this particular research innovation fund. South Africa is another example. We have a joint research innovation fund. We do the same with Japan. We also have the British Council. Those are just examples, ladies and gentlemen. We have also just set up the Science Technology Innovation Foundation to deal with the issues of raising funds and resources, and the National Innovation Agency to provide the link between research and the market, or research and commercialization. There are a lot of incentives that we give to the private sector, including tax exemptions, especially when they purchase materials and construction activities. Just continuing on the sort of environment that we have to ensure the private sector participates more. There is a continuously consulting forum where Kenya and the private sector and universities, private universities are members of that forum. We have the Kenya Education Sector Support Program. This is a forum where all stakeholders come together, and they include not only the government, the private sector, but also development partners. This has been a very important, shall I say, a clearing house for purposes of deciding on programs, activities throughout the year. Then, of course, the last bullet there, with respect to ICT and higher education and our research centers, we've agreed on a very clearly guided master planning of the process, creating special zones where research activities, certainly led by universities and other research institutions, can also come and find a home. We therefore have ICT Park, and I've highlighted that particular one. Konza Technopolis is a new city developing just outside Nairobi, which its emphasis is really going to be science and technology and ICT. Let me then touch on this case of KENET, as I called it, a Kenya Education Network Trust. This was established approximately 12 years ago as a membership of organization of universities, research institutes, for purposes of really ensuring we support the development of ICT education and exploitation of the potential that there is to support research and education-related matters. And as you can see, it's expected to provide high-speed internet connectivity, electronic communication, sharing of teaching and learning resources, collaborate in development of relevant content. And that is extremely important, because in our view, we can get a lot of content actually developed in Africa, and indeed collaboration in research. Other activities are listed there: network training services for the member institutions, application services, including web hosting, email, and so forth. Indeed, it also undertakes consultancy services for the member member institutions. At the moment, we have 59 institutions that are members of KENET, and it serves 73 campuses. As I said, it includes all universities and research institutions. That's just a map of Kenya. As you can see, Kenya, we are on the Indian Ocean, those who don't know, and on our we have Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, Uganda, and Tanzania as our neighbors. And you can see you remember it was really the Eastern Africa region which was the last to get the undersea cable, and indeed now we have 3 touching at Mombasa and going into the country. And literally the entire country is now serviced by a fiber optic system. So that shows just the list of higher education and research institutions that are members, family of KENET. You can see it literally covers the whole of Kenya. But as you can see, North Kenya is still a problem area, and indeed efforts are underway to manage that. Just to mention GIANT, the European Regional Research Education Network, that's extremely important. UmbuntuNet is the one for Africa, that is extremely important. CADNet has benefited a lot from USAID in terms of financial support. The Partnership for Higher Education in Africa, the key leaders are Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, Andrew MacArthur Foundation, Andrew Mellor Foundation, and so forth, and indeed the World Bank. But obviously, its core support is from the government of Kenya. It has also partners with the German Research and Education Network to start up and be part of the EduROM service, and really, as you can see so far, this is the only major presence in Africa with respect to EduROM. Network Startup Resource Center is also a partner of KENET. These are just examples. This IBM Corporate Service course is just the last collaboration between KENET and another major organization. And they have been invited and apparently are providing that pro bono to study KENET's research ecosystem, advise how Kenya universities and research institutions can increase their participation and contribution in the global research and innovation networks. It's extremely important we accept that the development of knowledge cannot be one way, that Africa has a right as much as any other country to ensure it originates research and be part of the global processes. This particular study will focus on organizational and change management issues, so that really it will make KENET more effective in terms of its original intentions. And again, you can see this is all being done under the context, as we said earlier, of knowledge economies. Having said that, and with special reference to KENET, let me look at just some opportunities of collaboration that still exist and in our view are extremely important. Again, these are just examples. For example, ICT infrastructure. The last mile connectivity is extremely important. And you can see I showed you northern Kenya, where you have some educational institutions that are still quite far away from the middle of development. How do you get to them? It's expensive. We need to also connect with the schools, or if you like, even health institutions that are around universities. So that is an area where, in our view, technologies, especially the companies that deal with technologies, can support us very much in getting further. The question of redundancy in terms of our broadband ICT is extremely important, and we do believe there are a lot of institutions that can come on board. In terms of research collaborations, really we indicated limited ability for researchers to join global community of researchers, and I think that is obvious within the developing world. That's a major issue we need to address. Collaborating actively with the major centers of knowledge generation, as I said, is extremely important. So that is an opportunity of collaboration for really those who think it's important to work in this area. Research funds is another area. I've just mentioned the setting up of a research innovation fund. Now, obviously, the budget is limited, and especially in those very expensive and difficult areas of science, of technology, of medicine. Those are areas where, in our view, there is rich environment for collaboration. Electronic content is extremely important. I think I've hinted at this initially. Content development, I think, in Africa is still very limited, or indeed content development in languages that are understood by the citizens, like in our case, Kiswahili, and there are other many local languages. We think that is an area where support can be important. In 1980s, there was IBM, the story goes. And you remember the man who is credited for changing the way IBM worked said IBM was an elephant and it needed to be taught how to dance. And I think he succeeded in teaching IBM how to dance. So I thought that's a very interesting elephant there. But in our view, If you go to Africa and the savannas of Africa, the most versatile, flexible, light animal is the antelope. And it must learn how to run very fast, but most importantly, how to leap. Perhaps some call it frog leaping or leapfrogging. Maybe we should call it anteloping. And that is what, in my view, in the areas of ICT, we must do in Africa. But there are great opportunities. I think in certain areas, in the example of Kenya, the use of mobile telephony is really a good example where Kenya is becoming a world player, if not a world leader. If you look at the way mobile banking is a reality, more than a lot of developed countries, just as an example. I think it is possible. That's why I put those two there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Asante.